commit. But is $50,000 for each year he spent in the slammer wrongfully sufficient compensation? 7's Derek Hayward with his story.
July 30th, 1990.
Yes.
Where were you when this robbery happened?
I was at work at Fort Lauderdale High School.
And you can prove it?
Yes, I can prove it.
Show
I had a
us.
time card. I had a time card showing I was at work, and I clocked in at 2:30 p.m. and I clocked out at 11.
Leroy McGee was here, working as a custodian at Fort Lauderdale High, when this Fort Lauderdale gas station was being robbed at gunpoint.
He didn't match the description, the fingerprints didn't match, he was at work, had an alibi, his car was inoperable. It's just amazing that he was actually convicted here.
But convicted he was to spend 3 years and 7 months behind bars, because the store clerk said he was convinced that the Leroy McGee he saw pumping gas 2 weeks later was the man who had robbed him.
So what was that like, sitting in prison knowing you didn't do it?
It was hard. It was a hard pill to swallow. Knowing that you ain't do a crime that you ain't here doing time for. It's hard. Knowing that you left your family out there, knowing it's going to be hard for them.
For 3.5 years, Leroy wrote to anyone and everyone, even President Herbert Walker Bush, until the sentencing judge himself reopened the case and declared Leroy to be an innocent man, wrongly convicted because of an incompetent, bungling defense attorney who didn't even point out the robber was described as skinny.
So the description was off?
It was off. And I made that clear to the lawyer, you know, that what he was saying, why didn't he say something, you know?
And what did the lawyer say?
He just said, well, I'm just doing my job.
To compensate such people wrongly convicted like Leroy, the state legislature has passed a new law to pay for those years in prison. He is to become the first to be compensated, $179,000 for 3 years and 7 months in prison for a crime he did not commit.
What do you think of that?
Well, it's a start, because right now I can use it.
As for the original defense attorney who botched up this robbery case, Theota McLean, he was subsequently caught stealing money from a client and was disbarred. He's no longer allowed to practice law. He was last seen wandering the streets of Daytona begging for money. In Fort Lauderdale, Derek Hayward, 7 News.
Much more